Maybe Corey. We'll see.
Sounds getting a complex.
Yeah, Brooke's in New Zealand. Kirsten's competing this weekend. Stacey just can't make it. I can't remember what she said. So I didn't read what Laura's was. Yep. I just thought that she couldn't make it. She got back to the coast now.
Cool.
Anything specific you want to go through?
Nothing specific, no.
What's going on in your life then?
I feel a lot of positive change happening from what we have been going through. I did do my homework, but homework was to use Paradox to learn something new.
Yep, that's right. Cool. I did that actually.
But yesterday I had a bit of a meltdown, just getting overwhelmed with a lot of different things around with Anthony. And I kind of took a step back and was able to see my way forward, which I know in the past I would have just kept ruminating on it. So yeah, I made some proactive steps to take charge of my schedule again, and which was positive. Yeah.
What brought all of that on?
There was a couple of things. I actually can't remember what the start of it was, but one of my clients that I'd sort of spoken about, she's a friend as well. I was talking to her about the fact that I was getting a bit overwhelmed with Anthony's headstone because he's buried with his grandparents. So as a result, I have to work quite intimately with my mother-in-law's family to organise it. But there's a lot of bickering in the family. So as a result, the headstone hasn't been resolved. And my client asked me, she goes, "Oh, have you got the headstone sorted out yet?" I'm like, no. So that was okay, I thought. And then later on when I got home, this is the second time this thing set me off. There's this timer that Anthony was attached to this tap that I used to run water down to feed the sheep. And the sheep have been dropping off, and I don't know why. But anyway, I think I need to refill their water, and I couldn't figure out how to get this timer to work. And anyway, and I can't figure out how to get it off the tap either because he put it on. So yeah, that was it. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So I was just like, all this stuff that I just relied on him to do, and he's not here to do it. And yeah.
So what's the driver behind that?
The driver behind that feeling? Ultimately, when I was blubbering on the phone to my sister, I just said to her that I don't feel ready to handle a lot of the responsibility that I've been given.
Yep.
Yeah. Sort of feel like I've been thrust into adulthood, whereas I had my offsider that I'd be able to sort of work things through with, and now it's just me. So yeah, I think that's just that newfound independence that I'm struggling to embrace.
What's the struggle?
I know a lot of it's self-judgment, like assuming I should know more or do better. It's the old shame mechanism for not being able to do everything. Yeah. So that was ultimately what made me realise that something needed to change as well in regards to my schedule, because I just realised part of the reason I was getting so overwhelmed is just I felt really overcommitted. So, I had a chat with Ben, who's the owner of BR where I work. So I'm giving up Thursday nights so that way I'll be able to actually dedicate some more time to doing other things outside of just doing. So working on the business rather than just in it.
What do you need to work on in the business?
On the business? I went a little bit MIA on social media for a few days there just because I didn't have a plan in place. I'm wanting to, like we talked about, I'm actually taking on a lot more clients. Like I took on 3 just last week, which previously I was going to try and cap it at 2, but then I remember what we were saying about efficiency being a volume game. So yeah, just looking at transitioning ultimately into more client work rather than just passive income stuff.
What kind of clients did you take on?
Mainly PT.
So you picked up 3 paying clients.
Yep.
Are you happy about that?
Yeah, delighted.
You gonna tell your face or?
Yeah, no, I was stoked. So yeah, next week, no new appointments. What?
Let's stop.
Is it?
Yes. Yeah. Stop.
High five.
Oh, look at my hands. So, three new clients, eh?
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yes.
Are you excited about that?
I am excited about that.
Mm-hmm. But?
There's no but. Oh, actually, no, there is a but. I'm excited to take on more.
But?
No but. Just need to, like I said, that's where working on the business, not just in it, is going to play a big role.
Are you okay for me to be confronting?
Yes.
What else is going on? We'll go to that in a couple minutes when Corey jumps on, because it's going to be the same thing for her.
Okay. What else is going on?
Yeah.
Still seeing Jason, which is going well. It's been good.
But?
Hey?
But?
Leading a little bit of a double life with that.
Can you elaborate?
Well, because it's only early days and I certainly didn't expect to be seeing anybody this soon after Anthony's passing away, I need to be tactful about when I tell his family. And I don't want to cause any undue upset. So I'm having to be like, when we're up near where I live, I have to sort of be careful where we go so I don't get seen out in public.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel deceptive. I don't like it.
Yep.
Mm.
So why are you doing it then?
I want to protect their feelings.
Mm-hmm. What's the cost? What's the cost of that?
The cost of me telling them, or the cost of me not telling them?
The cost of you not telling them.
The cost of that is that I have to feel like I sneak around.
Incongruent, out of alignment.
Yeah.
Basically lying to yourself, to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a perfect time to tell them anything?
I don't feel like there's a perfect time, no. I just sort of feel like I want to make sure that it's not too early. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as I said, we're only just seeing each other.
Mm. So ultimately, just sacrificing how you feel to make other people feel better.
When you put it that way, yeah.
And the reality is, regardless of what you ever do, there's always going to be people who agree with what you do and people who disagree with what you do.
Yeah.
And the people that disagree do that based on their own internal feelings about themselves and everything that's going on for them.
Yeah.
In a grieving process, every person goes through that differently. And the only reason why anyone would be unhappy with someone moving on is someone who hasn't moved on themselves.
Mm.
And they just project their hurt onto someone else.
Yeah.
Now, that might not even happen. That's just the mechanism of it if it does. So knowing that, you can just begin with empathy, compassion, and forgiveness of those people, regardless, because the alternative is it's just a sacrifice that you're choosing to make to go, well, I'm going to choose to suffer by not communicating this and hiding around.
Yeah.
And ultimately doesn't change anyone else's suffering, their grief, any of those things. It does allow people to blame someone or something external. And that's only ever a representation of what's going on internally for them. And if that actually helps them, then cool, awesome. People blame me for shit all the time. I'm like, bring it on. That helps you, awesome. If that's what you think you need in this moment, bring it on. More than happy to be the one that you blame.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you get to create how that ends up showing up, because it could be that could inspire other people to actually start to deal with their grief anyway, right?
True.
Because you never know, they might be doing exactly the same thing. Like, oh, we're moving on with our life. Probably shouldn't. It's been pretty soon.
Yeah.
What is soon? Well, it's just a mechanism of an undisclosed amount of time. And what is time? Well, we're back here again.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'm just scared of losing their support as well.
Mm-hmm. Their support of what?
Well, I live in South Australia because I'm here for Anthony's children. I just want to be here in case they need me. And my family is interstate. Like, my sister lives here now. But other than that, it's mainly Anthony's family here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess just with the resolution of everything, like the estate still hasn't been tied up, all of that. I'm thinking it's going to be a lot more difficult if it's a hostile situation.
Hmm. So why is it a hostile situation?
I have seen the way that his family have reacted to things in the past. Like my sister-in-law stopped talking to my other sister-in-law because her dog had the same name as what she thought she was going to name her baby.
Yeah. So, can you begin with empathy, compassion, and forgiveness of that?
I can, yes.
Mm-hmm. And when we think about that, that's very much just a circumstance. If that's under the surface, then that'll come up anyway, regardless of what you do or don't do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if someone becomes triggered by that, then it's not that, is it? That's all the underlying emotional charges around everything else in the circumstance.
Yeah.
Now you can choose to continue. The whole point is it's just making you aware of the impact of either option.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
How do you feel about it all?
I feel like I want to tell them.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. Hey?
You want to tell them? What about that?
I do. Pardon?
What's holding you back from telling them then?
Just the fear of them not communicating with me anymore.
So would you communicate that fear to me or them?
What do you mean?
Well, I think a conversation would go, listen, I just really want to talk to you about a couple of important things. You have some time to chat. Yep, awesome. So like I've been really afraid of like losing you guys and having you guys out of my life and all of this stuff. These are all the fears that I have because of this actually happening, where I'm in an awkward position where still going through the grieving process of Anthony, and at the same time have met someone that is an impact on my life. So I'm just getting pulled in these two different directions and I don't necessarily know what to do. So I thought I'd just be honest about exactly where I'm at.
That's really well put. Yeah.
It's just actually being honest and authentic about the entire situation.
Yeah.
Because when emotion comes into it, you instantly collapse your fears and all the memories and everything that's gone on around that in the past. So it's just getting to the point of being able to take a step back and be authentic and congruent about it all.
Yeah.
Because as soon as there's an incongruence about it, well, that's where the limitation comes.
Yeah.
Why you feel bad about it is because of the incongruence around it all. It's like you're doing one thing and then you're just trying to hide certain things and
Definitely.
conversations like that are they actually create deeper relationships if you're actually authentic about it.
Yeah.
If you go in there offensively or defensively, well, then that's the result that you get. You get someone being offensive or defensive. If you just go in there actually being vulnerable and authentic, well, then that creates deeper communication, deeper connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's what I need to do.
Yet to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Sweet. What was the other thing I was talking about? Oh, yep. Overwhelmed.
Clients.
Oh, the old surface stuff, eh? Don't have anything else?
Pardon?
Don't have anything else deeper for me?
Anything else deeper? I think, yeah, probably just a little bit of the whole reason I haven't told Anthony's family yet is a bit of self-judgment as well. Like, I honestly didn't expect to develop feelings for anybody after Anthony. So that scares me.
Why?
I feel like by admitting that I feel that way, it almost cheapens the connection I had with Anthony.
It's an interesting story.
Full of interesting stories.
So you've got more than one client, yeah?
Yeah, I got more than one client.
Well, you got 3 last week, so...
Yeah.
So when you think about each of those clients, do you have a completely different connection with each of them?
Yes.
And is that all perfect, whole and complete for that specific relationship, for that point in time?
Yeah. I see the parallel you're drawing here.
So is one relationship with a different person cheaper than another one?
No.
Is it just different?
Yes.
Is it perfect, whole and complete for that point in time for that person?
Yeah.
Is it all part of the human experience?
Yes. I agree.
So what's the belief around that that's creating a limitation?
Belief in relationships is creating limitation. To be truly committed to somebody is to be only for them.
Sorry, say again.
I guess that, the idea of being truly committed to somebody is being only for them.
Who's them? The idea of being truly committed to someone is only for them. What do you mean by that?
Well, say, for example, like, I think the limitation that I have around my relationship with Anthony is the idea that for me to be fully committed to that relationship, I can't have feelings or see outside of that relationship.
Say again.
I said, so for me to be fully committed to Anthony, I can't have feelings outside the relationship.
Yeah, but the first time you said it with an inflection on the last word, which was like, it was like a kind of question.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were able to hear me.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the limitation?
The limitation is on my feelings.
It's your feelings.
The limitation is the belief about my feelings.
Mm-hmm. And what's the belief about your feelings?
That I need to, apparently that I need to control them.
Control them?
Mm.
In what way?
Be directed with them.
Are you talking, when you say control them, you control your feelings or control the other person?
Oh, control my feelings, not control the other person.
Okay. Is feelings something you can control? Or are they something you experience?
It's something you experience.
So does trying to control something you experience take away from the experience?
Yes.
Ultimately, the underlying mechanism is one of guilt based on time.
Yes.
Because it's all well and good to be able to move on with your life after this amount of time, or this amount of time, or this amount of time, or this amount of time. So who sets those different measurements?
Yeah. They're random, really.
These arbitrary numbers, like every number is anyway. And those numbers only come up based on what's going on internally for that person.
Yep.
So what do you take out of that?
That, yeah, the idea of controlling the experience is taking away from the experience. That's an underlying issue for a lot of things I've gone through. It's just always that trying to control feelings.
Welcome to the human experience. We all try and control it, right?
Yeah. Feel free.
The whole point is the control doesn't change anything. It just means that we actually take away from the actual experience.
Makes sense.
So what's the next step with it all?
The next step of it all. Experience my feelings. Talk to Anthony's family. I meditated once this week.
Sorry?
I said I meditated once this week. Again, started meditating.
Yeah. Ultimately, why does that come up?
What, meditation?
No, well, any of it.
Why does it come up?
Yep.
Because our outer world's a reflection of our inner world.
Correct. So, what's going on internally? What's the relationship internally? If it's coming up that the concern for what other people say or do or think becomes an inherent driver.
Self-trust.
Mm-hmm.
Self-doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, Kari.
Hi guys, how you going?
Good, how are you?
I made it. I'm so excited I made it.
Are you okay for me to be confronting, Corey?
Oh, confront away.
Yeah, okay, cool. I just thought I'd get it in early for you, you know. We're gonna have
Oh,
as always.
I can imagine. Go for gold. I'm used to you by now, right?
So
I really need one of these sessions. So
yeah, we're gonna do some stuff with Jess first, and then it'll be we're gonna talk about a concept that you're both going through at the same time in a sec. But we'll do this one first.
okay, cool. Just tell me if I need to be away from people. Okay.
I'll just put you on mute for a bit again.
Okay.
So ultimately, what's the lack of belief that's going on in yourself, Jess, that's creating the thought process of that coming up then?
Lack of belief in myself. Creating the thought process that I come. I question my motivations a lot.
What is motivation?
Motivation. The driving reason we do something.
Yeah, okay. We'll go with that. So what is your motivation here?
My motivation with this situation with seeing someone.
Or anything, whatever comes up for you.
Like I even question my motivation around my business.
The way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So what's your motivation towards either?
I want to help people.
Do people need help?
I think people need help to get out of their own way. That's why I have you.
Need help? Do I help people though? Look at Cora, she's losing it. She's like, oh God. Cody doesn't help people. That's not what I'm about. So as soon as you create the frame of reference of needing to help people, well, it creates an element of force and it creates an element of where they are as broken.
Yeah.
And that just becomes a representation of what's going on internally for any person.
Yeah.
So when we think about that, it's just noticing that and being aware of it. And then going to work on the mechanism of that.
Okay.
So how do we create that mechanism?
Right, the mechanism of being broken.
Yeah.
In need of help.
Either.
Yeah, looking at things as imperfect, broken.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So when we think about any of these things, all that we're doing is we're consistently mapping everything back to this. When we think about perfect, whole, and complete, complete's here, perfect's here, we're looking at the higher states. We actually create that as a frame of reference of the way that we see the world. That creates the context for us to be able to step into that. Currently, in your personal relationships, you're fluctuating between grief and guilt.
Hmm.
Now, grief here, tragic life, regret, despondency. It creates an entire world of that.
Yeah.
When we create the context of it being perfect, whole, and complete for that moment in time, well, the situation still stays exactly the same, and the way that you see the world instantly changes. Your life view becomes, you see it as complete. You don't see it as broken.
Yeah.
So the point is, the current belief around that experience of your life is still seeing it as broken.
Yeah.
Now, is that accurate?
Me seeing my life as broken.
Mm.
I don't know if broken is the right word, but yeah, I feel like it's driving down that same, ultimately.
Yeah. And just normally go with broken because it normally triggers people the most. Complete, imperfect, broken.
Yeah, I guess it's that lack, the idea of lack. Yeah.
So what does that create then? The idea of lack.
Creates limitation.
Creates a what, sorry?
Creates limitation.
Limitation. Yeah. It creates an entire world of lack.
Yeah.
Whatever you focus on is what you create. Where attention goes, energy flows. You focus on the scarcity, that's what you get.
Yeah.
You focus on how something is perfect, and that's what you get. You focus how something is complete, that's what you get. Now, the reality is there is the only way that something becomes broken in our perspective is if that's what we see in terms of ourself.
Not sure.
Not sure about.
What do you mean there?
So if the world is a representation of what's going on internally for us, if we see any kind of circumstance, situation as broken, incomplete, not good enough, or should be a different way, then we see that in terms of ourselves. That's what's going on internally for ourselves, because then that becomes an external representation of what's going on there. That becomes a projection. So if we see something occurring externally, we then go, okay, well, that's what's going on internally, but chances are it's going on a deeper level.
Okay.
So when we think about that, it's just like, right, okay, well, there's some element of seeing myself as not good enough, or my behavior is not good enough, when the reality is that's just an internal representation of how I see myself. So for me, that was like creating attachment to when like my mum died, or when another relationship ended. After that was the first time that I felt like I could love myself or anything like that after my mom died, and then that person left as well.
Yeah.
So the mechanism of that thought process for me was all around, well, I require some person to be able to create that for me. I require a relationship to be able to create that for me. When that is something that's external, when that external thing gets taken away, well, it just creates this world of upset. And this is what happens in most relationships. It's like, oh, you complete me. Well, that just means that you see yourself as broken without that person. So when that person leaves at some point, when they die or you die, well, that creates a broken mentality. It also starts to frame every aspect of every moment in that person's life, because then they become codependent or required to be in a relationship in that instance.
Yeah.
To feel fulfilled, when the reality is they don't actually feel fulfilled when they're with that person anyway. They only feel love conditionally based on the other person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What do you take out of that?
I guess I'm just trying to relate it to a few different situations with where I've perceived it to be broken.
Perceived what to be broken?
Like the situation or a person or...
Yeah, so then that just becomes all external representations rather than internal.
Yeah.
So the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So if you think about that, then the internal relationship only ever becomes expressed. You can find all of these different other expressions and do work on those things. When we actually go to the internal component of it, the underlying driver behind it, then we create that being expressed in different ways without all of those things. It's the difference between going to work on the branches or the leaves comparative to the tree, to the roots.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So where in your life do you feel that you're not good enough? And then bring it back to, where do you feel not good enough in yourself?
Mm.
What do you come up with?
I think it almost goes back to what we spoke about in that very first conversation about me starting mindset coaching.
Which was? What was it about?
Just inherently never being enough.
Mm.
Like I feel in most aspects, if not every aspect of my life, I never show up to the standard to which I feel I should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we been through the imposter syndrome thing with you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how do you show up in the world based on that perspective?
Not sure.
So we think about imposter syndrome as we show up perfect, whole and complete for that moment, for that point in time, for that experience, for that specific reason, to fulfill that specific purpose. You see, the limitation comes around, yeah, but I don't like that purpose. I don't want that experience.
Trying to control the experience thing.
And the reality is the need for control is an unfulfillable need. So how do we break through the need for control? Because the need for control is just an attachment process. So what's the opposite of attachment?
Detachment.
Mm-hmm. But then that's still a polarity of it.
Yeah.
How do we create a high frame of reference to attachment?
An attachment is an attachment because it's attached to something else.
So when we think about attachment and detachment, we have attachment, we've got detachment, but we've also got something up here. What's this up here?
Unity?
What was that? Immunity?
No, unity.
Unity. Unity. That's an interesting word. So what we want to think about is we've got attachment, detachment. As we start to go high, we've just got non-attachment.
Yeah.
Because when we think about anything, there's no, right? There's only yes or not yes.
Yeah.
When we think about that, we bring that perspective to it. We instantly have that. We can play within the two polarities, but we also can go much higher than that, elevate our frequency to that. So if we're attached to an outcome and we then transcend that to non-attachment around the outcome, we instantly go to a higher state up towards the love section.
Yeah.
Then we create the frame of reference of it just is the way that it is and it's perfect, whole and complete. Make sense?
Yeah.
But
No but.
No but. So what do you take out of that then?
Just trying to wrap my head around not attachment without detachment.
So there's nothing to wrap your head around because that's just another mechanism of control, right?
Yeah.
What's the opposite of control then?
Submission.
Close, but that's a low level one again. We've got high level again.
So the opposite of control, it's a high level one.
So submission would be the force-based word. What would be the high level word?
Acceptance.
That's not the word that we're looking for. That's part of it. So when we think about, all right, acceptance is the result of it, yes. How do we get to that? What's this?
Release.
Yeah. Surrender. Same thing. Letting go. So you can hold on to something and it can be extremely painful and it can happen for a long period of time. The moment I let go of it, the moment I surrender and release it, has no power over me anymore.
Yeah.
So what can you surrender to?
My experience.
Yep. What else? What's the ultimate surrender?
Not sure.
So we think about the main surrenders that most people resist consistently are the need to be right. They need to be right. They can't be wrong. And need for control is one of the next ones.
Yeah.
So you choose to surrender the need to have control and you choose automatically then to experience everything.
Okay.
Because if you choose to control everything, then you take away from the experience of it. You choose to surrender to whatever experience that it is, then you actually create the experience of it, that it's just part of the human experience.
Yeah.
What do you take out of that? What's the resistance?
What's the resistance?
Yep.
It's just a dialogue I've been running for a long time.
Mm-hmm. How long does it take to change?
Takes a decision or a choice, rather.
We can take either, really. Happens in an instant. Letting go happens in an instant. Surrendering happens in an instant. Is that something you're thinking about letting go of?
Yes.
Is that something you're committed to letting go of?
Yes.
Is that something that you have let go of?
No.
I know. It's right here, right?
Sorry?
It's right here, right in front of your face. And you can continue to bang your head against it, or you can choose to let it go.
Yeah.
You can choose to begin with empathy, compassion, and forgiveness of yourself and let it go. Because part of the letting go process, part of attachment, part of that transcendence is forgiveness. So you're open to the possibility of forgiving yourself?
Yeah.
Can you commit to forgiving yourself?
Yes.
Can you commit to forgiving yourself for anything you have or haven't done in the past, present, or future, knowing that you were just doing the best that you can with the resources that you had?
Yes.
Can you commit to appreciating everything you have or haven't been through, knowing that it was all part of the human experience, knowing that you were doing the best that you could with the resources that you had, knowing that one thing creates the contrast of all the beauty of everything else that you love about your life?
Yes.
Can you then get to the point of loving every single aspect of every single experience throughout your entire life, knowing that it's created that contrast, created the beauty, the bliss, the joy, and all of those different things that you love about your life, knowing that every single component of that has created all of the things that you love in your life? Can you commit to loving every experience that you've been through?
Yes.
And how does that make you feel?
I feel good. Teary, but good.
Just teary, hey? So what are you resisting?
Not resisting.
Mm-hmm. But you're still holding on to it. Are you committed to holding on to it?
No.
So what's the payoff that you're getting for holding on to it?
I'm not getting a payoff for holding on to it.
Sorry?
I'm not getting a payoff for holding on to it.
Yeah, you are. The payoff is you're making yourself wrong for it. You're making yourself wrong, but technically you're making yourself right for not being good enough.
Mm.
You see, we only ever do things that we get a payoff for. Sometimes the payoff is actually pain and suffering.
Yeah.
For many people in their lives, that's their biggest payoff. Their need to be a victim, their need to suffer is more important than anything else. And then that becomes their identity. Being victim. Being someone who has to suffer.
Yeah.
And when we see that as just an experience, that doesn't mean that's who we are. That's just an experience that someone experienced. That's why they have twins where one becomes super successful and one goes to jail.
Yeah.
Comes down to the choices. So can you choose to surrender, to let go of the need to control everything?
I can choose to surrender to that.
You can choose to surrender to that. Will you?
Yes. Yes.
Have you?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Are you now living in surrender then?
Yeah, I am.
And how does that make you feel?
Relieved.
Mm-hmm. So how long are you going to live in surrender for?
Always.
Well, that's a choice.
Yeah.
Because with societal beliefs like the need to be right and the need to have control, well, if you're hanging around other people that have that, well, that might rub off on you after a while.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at doing is transcending all of those different levels so that no longer occurs, which is the point of 540. We can start to then have that as our predominant state. When we're below that, yeah, we can taste all of these different things up here, and then other people still impact us. So we go through the process to be able to create that over time. Anything to share?
No.
Cool. We'll move on for now. Come back to that more later at some stage.
Thank you.
So,
I'm
Corey.
upstairs.
Hmm?
All right. I'm gonna I'm at 2:30. Do you want to stay down here and read books?
Jess was telling us earlier about how a bit overwhelmed with all of the work.
In a business?
Mm.
Yeah. It is overwhelming to start off with.
So what I normally say when people say that they're overwhelmed.
What do you normally say?
When people say that they're busy.
I'm trying to think of it in your words. I can put it in my words.
Put it in your words then.
You create what is happening around you. And it's not busyness.
Busy. Huh?
It's not busy.
It's business. It's close. It's busy.
It's business. Oh, I've been out of the game for way too long, right? I have been playing though, I promise. Good going. Yeah, sorry, I can't remember it.
So anytime someone says that they're too busy or they're overwhelmed or anything like that, that's just a representation of what's going on internally for them.
Yeah.
And ultimately it's just a coping mechanism. So as soon as someone says that they're busy or they're overwhelmed or anything like that, it's just a coping mechanism that they're using their work to cope with something else, which is just some place where they're out of integrity, some place where they're being incongruent, something where they're not having the uncomfortable conversations that would create completion of it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately all of those things are just blocks to us getting work done at a fast rate. Because we instantly project it to, all right, it's my workload, it's how many sessions I'm doing, it's all of these different things. Yes, that plays a component into it. And when you're in alignment, you can get so much more done. When you're in alignment, you can pump out 80-hour weeks in a couple of weeks. Is that Blake?
Just having a bottle. Hey, hi.
Hi.
She's doing that. I'm too shy to talk to anybody now that I'm awake. Hey, hi.
Hi.
Are you saying hi? Are you going to say hi? She's ignoring me now. She's my stubborn one.
Stubborn.
Yeah.
So when we think about the process of being busy, like everyone in this day and age, it's another societal belief. It's like, oh, I need to be busy. I need to be perceived as being busy. And there's an element of it where it's like, well, I'm doing all of this work. Yeah, you are. And I guarantee if you return alignment, you will basically just remove the overwhelm mechanism. Because overwhelm is just a mechanism of us communicating how we feel when we're out of alignment. So if we're breaking our word consistently, if we're being inauthentic, if we're doing all of these different things, all it does creates this mechanism of what we label overwhelm. It's a feeling of stress. It's a feeling of tension. We label it as overwhelm and then we project it to our workload. And the reality is, it's just a label that we put on something when it's got nothing to do with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we can change the circumstances, we can change the scenery, we can change all of these different things. And the reality is, it just means that pops up again down the track. This is what most people when they take holidays. So like they work their ass off, they go on holidays and they just collapse because they've been working so hard. They've been out of integrity that when they get there, like, they just sleep or they get sick. And then they live for the holiday. It's like, I'm going to live my life out of integrity so I can have a holiday. Go overseas, take some awesome pictures, and then I plan my next holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Like, by all means, take a holiday. And you can also create the mechanism of your life actually being something that you live authentically, that you live in alignment, so you have the capacity to enjoy every aspect of every component of your life, to enjoy the entire human experience regardless of what's going on at that point in time. And by all means, things in life happen. And you can just surrender to it. So just got back to Gold Coast. I was in Brisbane went down there Monday night. I was going to come back Tuesday. Got back just before. Always fun. Couple of extra days, just surrender to the experience. So on Tuesday, I had a big meeting to go to for a big pitch that I was doing for a new client. And naturally, there's this huge fucking crane in the street, and my street's whole blocked off, so I can't get my car out, right? No worries, I'll borrow my sister's car. Cool, got it covered. Let's go. Get back. Now there's a ticket on it. No worries. Beautiful. I can surrender to that. That's beautiful. Perfect, whole and complete. I'll just finish the rest of my meetings and then I'll go get it sorted out and then I'll go back to the Gold Coast. Look at my car. That's the start, right? I only got it serviced on Friday. It should be working, but it's perfectly fine. Apparently not. And then I have meetings all the next day, so all day yesterday.
Can you shut that door, please? Can you shut that door, Jessica?
Meetings all day yesterday. So it's like, right, I'll do it at 6 o'clock, give them a call, get RSCQ, get them to get it sorted out, and then I'll go back after that. Call them, wait, hour and a half. And what do they tell me? Oh, no, it's not a battery, it's the alternator. We can't fix that. I can't fix that. You need one of the other guys to come and fix that to bring it apart. So they can only do that tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Meanwhile, another ticket.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, 7 a.m. I can drive to the Gold Coast. I can drive home.
Sorry, party happening at 1.
I can drive home and I can do that before my meetings, then it'll be all good. Well, they don't turn up to my first meeting. So it meant that I was there for an extra couple of days, an extra $440 in parts for the car, a couple of parking tickets, a couple of extra days, all the fun, right? You see, most people instantly just complain about all of that. They create this entire world of this happens to me. The reality is, it's just part of the human experience. I get to experience an extra 2 days in Brisbane. I get to experience all those things. I can instantly go, well, I can get emotionally charged by all these different things. I can create the concept of this being completely wrong, of this being imperfect, of this process being broken, of this being not good enough, of me not being good enough, of me being an idiot for not putting locked in, and doing it again. Or I can instantly surrender to that process knowing that I'm just doing the best that I can with the resources that I have, and whatever happens in life, I can just go with the flow.
I'm just getting my phone charger.
Yeah. So when we create the frame of reference, which is consistently living in surrender, regardless of what happens, well, then we begin to actually just go with the flow. When we go with the flow, it just becomes so much more effortless. Go with the flow, Corey. Surrender.
Can you jump off my I missed all that. She pulled my earphones out.
I said, go with the flow. Just surrender to it.
No, I was actually laughing because I heard the surrender and I'm like, I am surrendering. Look, who's that? Can you wave? Can you say hi?
Hi, Blake.
That's Cody and Jess. Say hi to them. I'll say hi to you.
She an activator? She an activator, Corey?
I think she might be a connector.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or she's either a connector or a diplomat with a big streak into activator because her freaking anger is through the roof. Taylor is my activator. She has the really bad anger streaks, and then Cami is a diplomat.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, she's super sensitive, but she talks about she tells you about everything, like every little detail.
So ultimately, it just comes down to the choice of you, regardless of the situation. And it can be as small or as large a circumstance as you choose. The reality is it still comes down to choosing. And this is the thing. Whatever is going on in someone's life is always the hugest thing for them. It can be this tiny little inconsequential thing like, oh, well, where you named your dog what I wanted to name my baby. That's the hugest thing to that person, right? So whatever's going on for one person is always, always, always the biggest thing for them. If you know that, then you can respect their view of the world and begin with empathy, compassion, and forgiveness regardless. And you get to choose to surrender consistently to what is going on in your life, because that creates you actually going with the current rather than against it. It's a great book called The Surrender Experiment. It's the book after The Untethered Soul, which is the book that I recommend the most to people. It's like the sequel to it. It talks about his story, about how he basically lived his entire life in surrender, and basically he sold his company for $200 million. So he became a university lecturer, and then he had all of these different businesses. He sold all these different businesses, ran all these different things. He's basically a hippie. He's like a yogi this spiritual guy, and he basically just lives his entire life in surrender. What comes up, he just goes with it. An opportunity comes up, he's like, yeah, cool, let's go with it. So like one of his businesses was like, he built this cabin, he built his own house on this area out in the middle of the woods because he was just trying to avoid everyone. It's like, I just want to do my yoga practice. I just want to meditate all day, every day. And someone saw his house and they're like, oh, that's really awesome handiwork. He'd never built a house before in his life. Builds the house, it's amazing. And then he ends up building a construction company. And then from a construction company, he's like, oh, well, we kind of need this extra software to be able to do things. So he ends up creating this software right when like computers are just starting to take off. And then he moves into like medical program software, all of these different things. And he talks about, he doesn't use that language, but he talks about every single thing that you surrender to creates like a new synchronicity. You see, the choices that we have in life impact us in terms of the direction that we're going. When we choose to surrender to something, well, then we experience the joy, the bliss of something that we can actually access if we surrender to it. So for me, that was like, if I had to come back to the Gold Coast at any other time, well, it would have been a completely different experience. Now, I was listening to this audiobook on the way back. It's like, and the reason why it was that this time, because I'd started listening to that exact chapter 3 times over the last 3 days, and I'd gone back to the start of it every single time. It's like, right now I'm going to drive home, I can actually listen to this chapter properly. I just, beautiful experience.
Yeah.
But the whole point is, if I just instantly go, well, fuck, 2 parking fines, an extra $444. $444, how funny is that? I thought it was funny. Like, it's like, yeah, so it's $444, and I'm like, yeah, of course it is. Naturally.
I would have laughed more if it was 111, because that seems to be your number, right?
The whole point is, when you don't surrender, you just miss all of that. Because I can be like, fucking hell, there goes like an extra, like I didn't get to sleep in my own bed for an extra 2 days. I wore the shirt yesterday, so it's like last night, get home, chuck it in the washing machine there, wash it so I can wear it again today, because I didn't take that many clothes. I wasn't going to stay for 3 days. You just argue with all of these inconsequential things that you can just be like, yeah, okay, I'll just roll with it. Just go with the flow, go with the current. And then you start to actually tap into every single beautiful experience that is actually available to you if you surrender.
Yeah.
The ultimate surrender is just surrendering to whatever comes up in life. That is how you live in non-attachment. Does that mean that you still get attached? Hell yes. I still get attached to things. And because I'm aware of it, I can go, all right, cool. Noticing getting triggered here. It's already like half an hour after this person was meant to be here to come and fix my car. I'm going to call them. It's like, all right, cool. Call him. All right, yep, he's just in another job. Okay. This was booked like yesterday, remember? Surrender, let it go. Go with the flow. Very easy to say. Not so easy to do.
Yeah.
And the impact of it is, well, then you actually begin to live your life enjoying every moment of it.
Mm.
And then if you see that there's a reason why you're experiencing that, it's like, there's a reason why I get to stay in prison an extra 2 days, right? Well, then I'm not making it wrong. Then I'm actually embracing it. Then I'm surrendering to it. Then I'm loving that I get to experience that for an extra 2 days to be able to experience something on the other side of that. And it might even be something that you perceive as a nothing, but it also creates the capacity that you could be creating something you're not even seeing right now.
Mm.
So, Katie, how do you know when it's a not yes?
To what?
Things that come up.
Right?
Things that come up.
What's the context?
Right. So, for example, I get an invitation to go out with some friends and I don't really feel like going.
Mm.
Do I say yes?
You surrender. So when we think about surrender, it's not just always saying yes. We still get to discern what we get to choose, but we're also choosing an impact of it. If someone invites us out and we don't want to go and we feel in our body that we don't want to go, not in our head, well, then instantly we tap into our higher self and we can instantly go, well, that's not necessarily for me, right? I surrender to the feeling that the feedback loop I get from my higher self or my body. If it's just up here, it's like, oh yeah, I'd be a little bit tired. Hey, oh yeah, that wouldn't be good. But then like in your body, you're like, oh, that would actually be awesome. I kind of feel like I should go. Because if we understand the mechanism of our brain versus our feeling, our body, our heart, when we surrender to our higher self, to our body, to our feeling, to our heart, not to this. This is just internal fucking dialogue that's going blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's all just opinion. I don't think you should go to that. That doesn't sound very fun. You're pretty tired. You've got to get up early tomorrow. Why would you do that? That sounds stupid. Oh no, let's go. That'll be so much fun. We haven't seen them in ages. That's this.
Mm.
Your body is the greatest feedback mechanism that you have.
Yeah.
So the surrender comes from feeling. It's not just saying yes to everything, saying yes to the feeling that you have about it, to your intuition. Then the next question becomes, well, how do we know what the difference is, right? Well, then that's just a skill that you start to develop. If you're in alignment, then you start to tap into your intuition much more. If you're out of alignment, then this is just running the show. Internal dialogue, just opinions. Now, if it's something that you can't change, then it's easy to surrender to that. Yeah. Because it's not even a choice. It's a choice of rejecting or surrendering. Because I can reject all of those things. I can go, fuck, man, I don't want to pay that. I don't have to pay for all these different things. And by all means, I'm like, last night, by the end of it, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go take my sister's car and go get some food. Go to Grilled, naturally. And then they go, oh, sorry, we've actually run out of those patties. And I'm like, fuck, naturally. They're like, what other burger do you want? I'm just like, whatever. I just want food. And the guy just goes and walks off. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably a little bit much there, but.
Oh, it was awesome.
Like, I was not surrendering in that moment. I was like, whatever. Give me activator. 7 o'clock at night. You haven't eaten since like 11. It's like,
I could eat bugs right now.
man, it's food. The point is, when we get to the point of surrender, all that we're doing is we're allowing what's coming up. Because the majority of the surrendering that we're doing is just to things that we have no control over. It's things in the past.
Yeah.
When we live in surrender, we instantly live in the present. Because when we're making something wrong, it's instantly going to the past. I can make all of those things that happened wrong. Well, that just creates resistance, but that creates resistance and impacts me in the present and into the future. Or I can just surrender to that occurring, and then I can just share it without any emotional attachment, have a laugh about it, don't even care. And then that also creates something to be able to talk to you guys about in terms of surrendering as well, right? Because if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be able to have this conversation, right? Then it's just another representation of how it is already perfect, whole, and complete. Then I've already flipped that switch. Now that automatically just shows up of how everything already is that way. When you're in surrender, that automatically happens. When you're in resistance, you're going to find all of the evidence of how it is imperfect, how it is broken, how it is incomplete. So your ability to surrender determines how you live your life. Make sense?
Yes.
Questions?
None from me.
Just a bit of fun, eh?
Absolutely.
Cool. Let's wrap it up then, eh?
Awesome.
Homework. Just fucking surrender.
This is actually something I have been working on, like focusing on over the past couple of weeks. So it's good that we had a rehash today.
When we think about it, like anytime that we get emotionally charged about anything, it's just like to surrender. Just let it go. The longer you hold on to it, the more it hurts.
Yeah.
The more we hold on to uncomfortable conversations, the more that they hurt.
Yeah.
The more anticipatory anxiety you create. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Love it. Good job, team.
Yay. It was good.
Anything else from me?
That's all.
I'm done. Have fun at Molly Walk.
I am having a ball. It's good. So thank you for asking.
Love it.
With my crazy kids. Surrender. Oh gosh. Thanks, Cody. That was good. Good session.
Thanks, Cody.
All right. Talk to you soon.
See you, Jess. Bye.
Bye.